out and away we
Bing bang!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Paddock Talk. I am Kyle.
And I'm Scott.
And on today's episode, kind of like last week, because there are still missiles flying all over the Middle East, we're going to be reviewing a past Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Scott.
Whoa, alleged missiles flying over the Middle East, sir. Alleged.
Allegedly's.
I think it's AI driven,
Oh.
but that's just me.
But before that, we're also going to get into just some news around the paddock this week. Firstly, the F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali kind of teased that power unit manufacturers are going to be in less of a corner when it comes to the next era of regulations in Formula One in 2031. So Scott, I kind of got the impression that that might be meaning they're leaning towards V8s and V10s again in the future, which is something we kind of keep hearing about.
Oh, please, for the love of God, for the love of Christ, bring them back. I'll take a V8 over this battery-operated wannabe Formula E car right now. I really hope that is. I hope we get more of a direction because I believe it was last year they talked about, they had a meeting with the manufacturers coming into this year. I want to say it was after Abu Dhabi where they had a brief meeting about bringing back either the V8 or V10 instead of having this battery operated deal in, I think, 2030. I would love it to death. I hope it happens. Please, fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, I'm just excited for the noise coming down the track.
Meow. Meow.
But also in other news, so looking towards the Miami Grand Prix, FP1 has been extended by 30 minutes, so it'll be a total runtime of 90 minutes, going up from an hour. The FIA is saying that's due just because of the big gap in the schedule, so they're giving the drivers a little bit more time to get used to the regulations and I guess maybe shake off a little bit of the rust for that weekend. But I'm just excited for a longer practice session. Um, I don't see them changing that for every sprint weekend in the future, Scott. But what do you think?
Yeah, definitely the gap in the schedule for, and I think they did, because my thing is taking forever. They're doing more of the tweaking with the regulations. Let me look it up real quick.
Hmm.
As referenced in the statement of FIA, proposals agreed outlined under will be implemented. The Miami Grand Prix part as a race start changes that was set to test in Miami adopted following feedback and analysis. Adjustments in energy management parameters, including reduction maximum permitted recharge from 8 megajoules to 7 megajoules, aimed at reducing excessive harvesting and encouraging more constant flat-out driving. Peak superclip power increased from or to 350 kilowatts, previously being at 250 kilowatts, further reducing time spent recharging, reducing the driver workload of energy management. This will be applied in race conditions. Number of events where alternative low energy limits may be applied has been increased from 8 to 12 races. Maximum power availability through the boost in race conditions are now capped at 150 kilowatts. The car's current power level at activation if higher, limiting sudden performance differences. MJUK deployment is maintained to 350 kilowatts as key acceleration zones from corner exit to braking point, including overtaking zones. Will be limited to 250 kilowatts and other parts. These measures are designed to reduce excessive closing speeds while maintaining overtaking opportunities and overall performance. There is still so much left, but that is pretty much the most that they've worked out during this huge 5-week break. So that is pretty much the reason why we are getting an extra 30 minutes of FP1 so teams can get ready for these implementations. It's definitely a mouthful. Like I said, I read 3/4 of it. I'm glad it's a step in the right direction. Hopefully it makes the racing better and the driving a tad less dangerous.
Oh yeah, hopefully it makes for better qualifying sessions, a little bit tighter. better racing, and yeah, like you said, maybe a little bit safer. Um, Also, alongside that news, so we know Jeddah was canceled. It might possibly be returning to the calendar at the end of the season in December. I've heard multiple different things that Jeddah might pop up between Vegas and Qatar, that Abu Dhabi might be pushed back a week, and Saudi Arabia inserted between Qatar and Abu Dhabi. Um, the the Saudis are really trying to get this event held at the end of the season, and I've seen that F1 teams and the FIA are already saying no, they just feel too unsafe returning. Um, I really don't know what to make of this, Scott. I don't know if the race is going to be held just with everything that's going on. I would love for it to be held, um, but you said you had some insight knowledge from someone doing a little bit of research on
Well,
hotel rooms.
yeah, definitely a little inside baseball. Kim Illman, who does a lot of photography in F1, he goes to all the races, does all that. He had posted last week. Me, damn it, I wasn't ready, man. I wasn't ready. Um,
No, that's
because he
okay.
always has to book. No, you're fine. He always books his rooms in advance, stuff like that, because he's a independent contractor, stuff like that. That he had heard rumors that Jeddah might be going, well, it might be held. And why is it not pulling up? I have the article up, and it's not pulling. I want to say it was around December. Let me see, where is it? I don't know why my feed's not pulling up. Anyway, it
Hmm.
was around December 6th. They were he had heard that they were going to be holding it there, so he booked a 5-day stay. I think it was Wednesday through Sunday, normal rates, everything, and went back a couple days later, and all of a sudden, all hotel rooms were booked up. Okay. Insta post hinting final race of the year, Abu Dhabi will be pushed back a week to December 13th. Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is taking place December 16th. I was skeptical. Headed to hotels.com, see if rooms are available. Jeddah 5 night stays, incorporating December 6th in Abu Dhabi, anticipation for December 13th. They were at regular prices, about a fifth of Grand Prix pricing. He booked a 5 night stay, refundable, 5-star hotels each of the cities. Over the past days, seen posts suggesting it's going to happen, and went back to hotel.com, and everything was booked, along with those favored by teams and fans, showing fully booked Thursday to Sunday. So he does do a lot of traveling with F1. So if I'm going to believe somebody, he does do a podcast of his own, Paddock Access. I believe he talked about it too as well. That's some interesting stuff. The Saudis really want this race to happen. I mean, really, really want this race to happen. It looks like I think they're gonna squeeze it in. I love the track. I hope the situation over Middle East is situated better. But as we know, with F1 and driver safety, we've had a missile attack before during a race weekend, and it's like, it's fine, it's fine. It was a couple miles away. No, the track. You're fine. Type deal. It looks like they're gonna do it. I don't know how, but they're gonna do it.
Yeah, I was kind of on the fence before, but after you saying that the hotel rooms are completely booked up now, it does kind of seem like it will be being held. And December's still a long way away. I know this F1 season is very logistical, and those were some concerns I saw about this race being held later in the season, just being how late it is already. But money talks, and the Saudis do have a lot of it. So I think the FIA or F1 or whoever the powers that be will hold this race later on, possibly.
Sorry, when you were saying that, I was just thinking of Vince McMahon and his little dark hood in the WWE or WWF days. It was me. It was me all along. I think the Saudis are Vince McMahon. They are the powers that be right now. They really want this to go. They spent all this money on this track and everything. They're gonna make it their mission in life to make sure that they are getting this race in. So well, I guess we'll see. I'm
Hmm.
sure the FIA will make it official at some point. As of right now, it's just rumors. You're just hearing it from us, a lowly old F1 podcast, but it may be true. I could see it being extremely true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's all the news I had, though. If you want to just get into our 2021 Jeddah review, Scott.
Yes, that is everything I got too. So let's, as the fans had voted over the weekend, and thank you for everybody who did vote on YouTube and social media. We had some definite doozies. 1979 Daytona 500 was one. Canada 2011 was one, which I would definitely like to talk about. Had nothing to do with Jeddah, but sure. But the first race, 2021 Jeddah Corniche race, was the overall winner by a landslide. So we rewatched the race. We made our notes. We prepared diligently. I forgot what a shit show that race was. Oh my god. But leading into the race, it was a very tight battle between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Max had taking the lead going into Jeddah. It was a front row lockout by Mercedes. The Red Bull just wasn't there on quali day. And it was just one of those very tight battles, just like it was in 2016 with Lewis and Nico Rosberg. Were you watching F1 at this time, Mr.
Uh,
Drive to Survive boy?
no, so I was still just on Drive to Survive at this time. I was still, this was before I had bought F1 TV. So I never actually watched this live. So the first races I believe I started watching were in 2022, around the time we had actually gone to Montreal and seen the Canadian Grand Prix that year. But no, this was before my time in F1. Just quickly going back to the Red Bull though in qualifying, if everyone does remember, because I rewatched the qualifying highlights as well, this was the year Max was on that absolute flyer around Jeddah, where like everyone was just glued to the TV in the pits, and where he hit the wall coming out of the final corner and gave let pole get taken by Lewis that weekend. So Max was on pace for pole, but unfortunately the wall had other things to say about that.
That's right. Wasn't it the last turn? I
Hmm.
didn't watch the highlights. It was the last turn, wasn't it?
It
Where
was
he kind of
the
gave a little love tap with the right rear?
yep very last corner.
I do remember that.
I think he was like 2 or 3 hundredths up on Lewis at that time when he hit the wall.
I remember that. See, I didn't watch. You did better preparation than me. You watched quali highlights and everything. You probably watched the FP, the free practice sessions too. I didn't. I just watched the race.
Hmm.
What a overall stat guy there.
I know. Um, yeah, like you had mentioned though, Max had to outscore Lewis by 18 points in this race. It was, I think, the first opportunity in the season for one of the drivers to win the championship. So, yeah, Max had to outscore Lewis by 18 points going into this race. And there were a lot of safety concerns going into this race as well from a lot of the drivers. You know, brand new track, high speed, a lot of blind corners. And going into the race, there were crashes in both the support series races that weekend and in FP2. I believe Charles hit the wall in a spot where multiple drivers had hit the wall. I know Teo Porcher and I'm forgetting the Fittipaldi again. Uh, the one that drove for Haas were involved in an accident and both had
Pietro,
to. Yeah,
the one you
Pietro.
don't, the one you don't remember his name, Pietro Fittipaldi.
Yeah, they were involved in an accident and both taken to hospital. So yeah, lots of safety concerns and crashes going into this race, which
But
kind of foreshadowed a little bit what was to come.
I mean, definitely the fastest street circuit they race at. I know Baku with the high speeds there, but that second sector is really slow. You're not on throttle as much. Jeddah, it's oh my god, it's balls to the walls every single turn at that place. There's just maybe one or two heavy braking points. So yeah, it definitely a very enclosed street circuit. You're right because Leclerc did wreck. I think it was FP2 or FP3 because I remember in the race they did mention that it's where Mick Schumacher wrecked. It was the same
Hmm.
exact spot. It was
Yep.
turn 21.
Yep.
So I guess I skipped ahead a bit.
No,
Let's
no, no, you're
go.
good.
It was a front row lockout by Mercedes, and the start of the race, Mercedes held their own 1-2. Max, I think, leveled out to three. Leclerc into fourth. Don't remember who was fifth. And I remember messaging you while I was watching it, just like, hey, the first few laps are kind of boring. Like they're just kind of standard race, and then all of a sudden, safety car, Michael Schumacher, or Mick Schumacher, not Michael. The poor kid just lost it into turn 21, destroyed the barrier, and that was the first safety car and the first red flag of the race. And that's kind of where everything just kind of started to kind of unravel with the race.
Yeah, after old Mickey's shoe hit the wall, uh, the safety car comes out. There'd be a couple rounds of pit stops, so Lewis pits, Max stays out. There's a couple laps of the safety car before they finally call it a red flag because they're not satisfied with the safety of the Tech Pro or wall or whatever it's called in turn 21, like you had said, where Charles had hit in FP2. Um, Lewis was pretty irate at that they called the red flag so late because it gave Max the opportunity to change his tires for free after he stayed out during the safety car. So Max or
Yeah,
Lewis was quite
that's
upset
right.
at that.
Yeah, that's right because I think everybody in the top five pitted besides Max because it was just typical safety car, and then it took two laps. Or did I write it down in my handy dandy notes? I think it was three laps. It was lap 13. I threw the red flag in under red flag conditions. You're allowed to work on the car as long as you're not adding new components that are different from the car. So you can't add a different wing that has different specs. It has to be the same wing. You can do work on it. You can get a free pit stop and everything. Hamilton, I'm going to say, I don't want to be mean. I used to love Lewis Hamilton in the McLaren days, but when he hit Mercedes, he was just a whiny bitch. And I think during this points championship was when he was the worst. I swear to God, every race it was the world's out to get you because you're driving for your eighth drivers championship to beat the great Michael Schumacher. The world's out to get you, and every little thing he was just tweaking about. Driving by it's fine, it's fine. Let's just go racing. Well, we've had two wrecks there in practice, one in the race. It did kind of mess the barrier up. If there's going to be another wreck, and the commentators did mention, if there's going to be another wreck in that part of the track, that's exactly where they're going to go. Don't you want to take the time to make sure the circuit's safe to just to resume racing? Because if somebody goes off there, they're going to hit in the same exact spot. They're not going to go anywhere else. So take the extra laps. He was just really butthurt about Max getting the advantage because he gets to get the free pit stop.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can see why Lewis would be so upset. Just like we had said, he needed to gain a lot of points that race just to make some distance between him and Max. And it did kind of seem a little fishy on his end. But like you said, if a car were to hit there, it wouldn't have the same padding as the proper wall would. So it was probably a good call to red flag the race, but just so late is probably why Lewis was so upset or had to be so upset. Um, but coming out of that restart, so they do a standing start for the second time of the race besides the, the start of the race. Um, Max goes into turn one, almost getting rear-ended by Valtteri. If you remember the very first lap, he almost got rear-ended by his own teammate Checo going into turn one. So he almost
Yep.
gets rear-ended by Valtteri. I think gets run off a little bit. I think Lewis might have taken the lead at that point. I can't quite remember. But going around the corner, Checo gets tagged by Charles, hits the wall, and then just a big clusterfuck happens. Mazepin, unskilled as he is, doesn't have the reaction time to avoid George Russell, sending George flying through the air. I'll say, Scott, flying through the air. And
I I can't add any more to that because I swear I saw four wheels off the ground flying.
oh no, absolutely. But like I said, Mazepin, just not skilled enough to avoid the crash. Sends George flying through the air and immediately brings out the second red flag. But like I said, Max was rear-ended, forced wide, took the lead off track, and there's a little bit of a clusterfuck with Lewis and Ocon going around the corner. So once the red flag comes out, there's some deliberating between Michael Massey and the teams for who gets which grid position, seemingly going back and forth like on Family Feud. Um, but yeah, I've never seen a race director, talk to the teams about which grid position they think they should have going into the next restart.
So I meant to bring it up during the first red flag because if you haven't watched this race, there was multiple red flags, multiple safety cars. We haven't even gotten into it yet. During that first red flag, I don't remember ever seeing a race director on TV besides maybe Charlie Whiting, like at the beginning of the race before he does the start program. But that year, like 2021, F1 was really hard up about showing the communications between the FIA and the teams and showing the race director. I don't know why. I guess they thought it was a novel idea that the fans, hey, I wonder what the teams are doing when they talk to the FIA. And just different conversations, but I didn't really care. It just really felt strange seeing the race director kind of just on TV, during the majority of the race and hearing him talk during the race like he was playing a big part. Well, obviously not in this race. He didn't play a big part. But yes, you were correct. Coming off that first red flag, Max did get kind of pushed wide a wee bit. Did rejoin in first. I'm sure they would have said, Max, let Lewis overtake. If you haven't watched this race, that's not going to be the first time you hear that either. And before they can even let him overtake, you know, was it Leclerc bumped or took out Checo? Checo spins, the field checks up, and if we had the Kvyat single or signal going, just the Russian torpedo 2.0, all gas, no brakes, just barrels into George Russell, sending him flying in the air. And just another clusterfuck, second red flag of the race at lap 13.
Yeah, and no, that was just an insane part of the race. But like you had mentioned, it would not be the last. Going into the next restart, so after all the haggling, the next restart would be Ocon on pole, Lewis in second, Max in third. And if you haven't seen this story before, Max pushes Lewis wide going into turn one on the next corner. I think, or was it Ocon that went wide? No, Ocon goes wide, loses the lead to Max again, and then eventually loses the position to Lewis. But almost just another repeat of the lap before and the restart before.
Are
So
you
just
talking about the first? I'm sorry, the
the
first red
second.
flag or the
No,
second
no,
red
no, the
flag?
second one.
Okay, yeah,
The
because
second
that was
restart.
when because Max took it three wide into one,
Yeah.
and I want to say no. I think Lewis went off. Ocon regained the spot because Max was obviously in the only one really on track. So I think that's how it played out. It was Max, Ocon had slid through, and
Mhm.
Lewis, once he regained his composure back on the track, passed Ocon with the greatest of ease because, come on, it's a
Mhm.
Mercedes compared to an Alpine.
Yeah, Ocon did let Max through as well after that incident, going into turn one. Um, Later on though, the VSCs would not end there, Scott. I think Crofty said throughout the race up to that point, there were two red flags, three standing starts, three VSCs, and two safety cars. A lot of the VSCs were just due to debris. I know Vettel and Raikkonen had a bit of a shakeup. Actually, Vettel had multiple shakeups with some cars.
Yeah, lap 23, virtual safety car. Gets said a lot. Yuki ran into Seb, which Seb became it definitely. He had a target on his back. Granted, it was a green Aston Martin. It always has a target on its back. Yuki lost his wing. It was a quick. It was a quick safety car. Yeah, Seb and Kimmy. Kimmy tries this weird dive bomb into one of the chicanes, breaks his wing, hits Seb, and Seb keeps dropping debris. Safety car's out for 4 laps. Comes out again 3 laps later for debris. Another debris caution comes out. The safety car drops for 20 seconds, and was that the end of the safety cars? I'm looking through my notes right now.
Um, there was one to pick up debris that had flew off Vettel's car around one of the corners, and then I can't remember if they threw another one to pick up any of the debris from the next incident we'll go into talking about. I don't think they did.
So I'm trying to remember because I remember Alonso was bitching and complaining. I want to say that was one of the virtual safety cars. I want to say it was that long 4 lap one because Seb was dropping a lot of debris and just a lot of carbon fiber bits right near the racing line. Alonso was on the horn bitching and complaining, saying it needs to be a safety car. They have to clean this up. I think they got to where they did the extended virtual. I honestly think they just didn't want the race to keep going any longer. It was already a long race. Hey, let's just try to do this while you guys are at 40% less speed. The last virtual safety car was definitely a quick one. It looked like an end piece of the barge board maybe because it looked definitely like an Aston Martin. They never said specifically. In my notes, no, I don't see there was a safety car or virtual safety car for the next incident. Kyle, go ahead and lead us off, or just go ahead and continue. What happened in this shit show we call the 2021
Yeah,
Jeddah Grand Prix?
so once the VSCs end, Max and Lewis get back to battling. So coming out of I think it was the second red flag or the first, Max was on medium tires, Lewis was on hards. He was a little concerned that the hards might not make it to the end of the race. But he wouldn't have to deal with that later. Max, I think, slowly losing just wear on his tires. Lewis is catching up, goes to overtake him into turn one, I think. Max lets him through a little bit. They both go wide. Max is then instructed to give Lewis the position back because I think Lewis was in the process of overtaking him when they went wide. Lewis never got the message that Max was instructed to give him the position back just because Michael Massey was taking his sweet ass time deliberating with every other team. Um, so things get a little dicey there. Max slows down on the straight to let Lewis overtake because he's been instructed, but he's in the middle of the track, clearly not in a position to let another driver overtake. Lewis also, though, slows down for no real reason, really, because he never got the radio message to be instructed to overtake Max or that he was giving the position back. Kind of rides his ass a little bit, and then Max brake checks Lewis. So they make contact. The only real damage, it seems, is on Lewis's car, losing a little bit of the end of the front wing. Max scoots off. Um, and that's where we get our famous F1 meme of Toto destroying his headset, because that was after that incident.
Oh my God, perfect throw. The form was delightful. I give it a good 8 out of 10 on the throw for sure. The destruction, I didn't see it destroy though. That's what kind of takes the 2 points away. If it was like when he put it back on and it looked like me after a bad game of Arc Raiders or something and the like pieces are missing, but I'm still trying to get through the game. But great. I don't know if he did that at the next race or not. I want to say it became a it became a trend that those two races. Going back to the Max Verstappen air quote brake check incident, they brought it up in the broadcast. It was definitely a clusterfuck. Here's my fan theory again. Max Verstappen got told, hey, let him by. He initially gives him the whole inside of the track. He is in a DRS detection zone. Max is playing 4D chess with Lewis Hamilton right now. He knows if he gets the detection, lets him by, he gets DRS on that front stretch. So he lets him go by, he gives him the time of day to let him go by. Lewis has no fucking idea what's going on because, like you said, Michael Massey took his sweet ass time to let everybody know what was going on, and they barely got it to Lewis after the whole incident. So Lewis goes to pass him, and Max says, "Oh fuck it, I gave him enough time. He's not going to go." He kind of takes the middle of the road. Granted, he was in the middle of the track when Lewis decides, "Hey, I'm going to pass," but so much time had gone by. I think Max just said, "Fuck it, I'm going. We'll do it another time." Again, another clusterfuck with the sporting director or the director of competition getting back to the teams and say, yeah, that's fine. We won't give him a penalty. Just, yeah, let Lewis overtake. It's fine. The team doesn't relay it to Lewis, and we just get that. But granted, with Lewis, his front wing does get destroyed. There is debris. They don't call a safety car for it because, again, 10 laps left. They just want to get this shit over with. But he still has like a real wicked fast car. And then after the incident, Max gets hit with a 5-second penalty because of not that, overtaking off the track the last time when Lewis overtook him on turn one. He re-overtook him. And that's what led to that quote-unquote brake check.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned, Lewis actually set the fastest lap of the race after his front wing was destroyed. So I don't know if F1 engineers and designers are overthinking these front wings, but the cars seem to gain a little bit of time once their front wings get destroyed. But yeah, just an entire clusterfuck during that situation. Again, it seems like Michael Massey throughout the season just tried to put his hand on everything during these races, and it was a little bit unfortunate. But the racing between those would continue. Lewis would retake the lead on lap 43. Like I had mentioned, the Max was on mediums for this stint, and Lewis was on hards. So kind of after their kerfuffle, Max's tires really started to fall off, and I think just with that 5-second penalty, he decided to just, and maybe he was advised by the team just to get away from Lewis for a little bit. He kind of dropped 3 or 4 seconds behind Lewis for the end of the race. It would end up finishing in second as Lewis would go on to win. And then
Yeah,
actually, no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought.
So yeah, like you, some of the stuff they were. It seemed like the cameras were on Max and Lewis the entire race, besides the times Vettel was getting hit. So that was a little upsetting as an Aston Martin fan. But right at the end, they showed Valtteri passing Ocon for third, which was probably one of the tightest finishes I've seen for a podium position in F1. Right
Yeah,
at the
they were
line.
talking about Lewis and Max, and Ocon's like, "Oh shit, I can get another podium because you got to go back in time, way back when, 2021." Alpine did have a couple decent finishes. Ocon had a win at Hungary, and Alonso. Sorry, I had a moment there. Alonso had a podium at Qatar. Ocon, they wanted to finish the season strong. Ocon get the podium. It was a great race, a great battle. Yeah, they never showed it until the last little bit. They didn't even show it until after the race. With my broadcast, it was, and Valtteri Bottas takes third place right at the line. It's like, oh, great, that would have been nice to watch. And after the race, during the cool down, they do show it. It was a hell of a slingshot, and he did get it and by a good car length. And I wish I would have saw it live, but you know what? It's a title contention race. Both drivers are now tied at the end of the race for drivers' points, and it all goes to Abu Dhabi. for the tiebreaker, and we all know how that ended.
Yeah, Scott, so like you said, Max and Lewis going into Abu Dhabi, they're tied in points now, just with Lewis's win, Max's second place, and then Lewis actually, because this was back at a time when you would still get an extra point for fastest lap of the race, so he would end up with 26 points and tying Max, and going into Abu Dhabi, the season finisher, tied on points. So really just an exciting race, an exciting season. Like I had mentioned, I had never watched this race live. I had only seen stuff from Drive to Survive. Um, so I was really excited to go watch it.
Great race. It's such a. I like these driver battles like we had this past year with Lando and Max, even though Max really didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning the title. It was the start of the Adrian Newey rebuild with this Formula One car, and Red Bull's start into a 4 year dominance period. It was just so weird seeing the second Red Bull car actually being up in the top 10 until that that wreck. But yeah, it's a great race, great season. Granted, another the global pandemic was still going on, and we had another abbreviated season with it. They said it was the first race since I think of Portugal to have three standing starts to the race. It was just one of those tracks. You knew something was going to happen, and sure as shit did. I like the track. Personally, the area the track's in is really, really messy and really not in a good place. The circuit, though, is so good. I hope they do keep it or maybe build it in another country.
Same layout. Because, yeah, Jeddah
Oh,
is
for
one of
sure.
my favorite tracks, just layout-wise, just driving it on F123 and whatnot. Scott, you put out a little trivia right there, or a little stat. You didn't think I would let you get by another episode without some trivia. Um, so, Scott, 2021, the
Oh,
two
damn it.
drivers, Max and Lewis, like we had just mentioned, went into the final race of the season tied on points. Which season was the last F1 season to have two drivers go into the final race tied on points? They were talked about on one of our recent episodes.
You're a dick. Why do you got to do this to me? They were talked on this episode or previous?
A previous episode, and it was mentioned on the Sky Sports broadcast as well. That's where I got this stat from.
Today? Or from the 2021 race?
Yep.
Shit, I didn't watch the podium celebration or anything. That's why I was quickly trying to finish the race today. I just watched the interviews. Shit. Going into
You
It
can
wasn't the
ask.
76 season, was it?
Oh, you were so close. Do you want me to give it to you, or do you want another guess?
Was it in the 70s?
It was
Um,
someone we talked about on our recent podcast.
yeah, you would think. I always re-listen to our pods. Wow, 70s. I'm trying. Fuck it. I give up. What is it?
So it was the 1974 season. Emerson
Son of
Fittipaldi
a bitch.
and Clay
Yeah.
Regazzoni go into the final race of the season tied on points before Fittipaldi would go on to win the world championship.
You're right. Oh my God. Yeah, we did talk about that, didn't we?
No, yeah, that was one of that was I think I had mentioned Regazzoni in my Ferrari of the 70s dynasty team.
You did. Okay. All right. Well, bad on me, son of a bitch. If you're gonna keep doing this to me every week, I guess I gotta really start paying attention.
That's all I really had about Jeddah. Um, it wasn't quite at the end of the season, but there were some driver changes going into the next season. I don't know if you wanted to go over those quickly before we ended the episode as well, just because we did
Yeah, we
kind of
sure
go over
can.
that over the Shakir Grand Prix. Um, so yeah, Russell made his debut at the Shakir Grand Prix for Mercedes the year prior. He would end up going to Mercedes after this season. Valtteri Bottas would switch from Mercedes to Alfa Romeo. Zhou Guanyu would make his F1, or I guess not his F1 debut, because he did a practice session for Alpine, I believe, in 2021. He would go to Alfa Romeo, and then Alex Albon would get back into F1, taking George Russell's spot at Williams. And then I didn't have it written down because it wasn't known at the time. These other ones might have not been known at the time either, but Kevin Magnussen would replace Mazepin right before the 2022 season for Haas because uh,
Yes,
because
because the
Russia invaded
whole
Ukraine, and we know
yeah,
who his buddies are.
yeah, and when your dad's on Putin's cabinet, yeah, you're not a good fit for Haas. That was really late too, because like Magnuson got a call. I think it was like right before testing, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
But yes, you're correct. Uh, George goes from Williams to Mercedes. Valtteri goes to Alfa Romeo because Kimi Räikkönen ends up retiring at the end of this year. Uh, Joe Guan Yu takes over for Antonio Giovinazzi, who ends up becoming, I think, a test driver for them. I think either test reserve driver, and last time I think I heard he was with Ferrari. I don't know if he still is as a like a sim driver or something to that nature. But yeah, Mazepin goes to back to Russia,
Back to Russia.
Magnussen takes over for the car because 2022 was Mick Schumacher's last year with Haas. That's right, because it was still Alpine that year
Hmm.
because Fernando was in Alpine in 2022. And does Danny Rick not go? And it's Piastri, or is that the next year?
Next
No.
year, I
That was
believe.
the next year. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, because this was his first year with McLaren
Hmm.
because he had won in Italy or Monza this year, and then the previous year, the car wasn't that good because it was the last year before, or it was the first year going into the new reg. So that's right.
Hmm.
Apologies, I was getting all hyped up about Piastri making his season debut. I was a
Yeah.
year early.
Attention all. I have not signed with Alpine for next season.
Oscar Piastri has signed to drive for Alpine next year. What the fuck are you talking about? When did I do that? Bitch, I signed with McLaren a month ago.
When did we go
I
for
just
ice
didn't
cream?
tell you. What the fuck did we get ice cream?
uh,
But no, yeah, besides those little driver moves, that's kind of all I got for this race. If you have anything else to add.
no, that's all I had on that race. We've run a little long this episode, but we've been vibing. I'm liking it.
Oh, dude, definitely. I love covering classic races. I really think we should do this more often. I hope during the off season and not during these long breaks during the actual race season. Because next week, no classic races, no filler reviews of anything. It's actually a race weekend. Finally, cars are on the track. May 1st through the 3rd. We're game for the Miami Grand Prix. I'm excited to actually watch some actual racing from 2026 instead of covering these classic races, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready to get back to our current championship battle at hand. Even though it is good
Tech,
reminiscing on an old 2021 championship, one
really
for the
good.
ages.
And technically, you just want to get back to gambling, honestly. That's just what you want to do.
That's true. I'm shaking from not getting my racing picks out. Honestly, I am.
I'm sure you are. It's like, just come on, come on. I just want the over under on the English drivers. Come on, let me hit that over under. Come on, please, please.
I'm already having some gut feelings about Miami. I'll save them for next week's episode, but I'm already having some rumblings.
Oh God, I don't even want to know. I I can't wait to cover Miami, but I do like it the last few races because we've got to see some races or some practice on Thursday when we normally record on Thursday nights. But this one's going to be a Friday. It's going to be in our hemisphere, our time zone. I don't know how I feel going into picks with the little tweaks they're doing to the cars and the engines. I really don't know how I feel about my picks. I actually might have to do some studying this time.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's I agree, Scott. But that's absolutely everything I had. for this week's episode.
Well, if that's it, I guess we'll end the show here. I'd like to thank everybody for commenting, especially the YouTube poll. We had a lot of engagement on the YouTube poll, so when we keep doing this, we'll definitely get some polls up when we start covering more classic races during some off times. Thank you for the engagements on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Please follow us on them, like, subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell for notifications. I think that's what the YouTubers are saying nowadays. Uh, but I just love talking F1 with everybody. I thank you guys for listening. As always, I've been Scott.
I've been Kyle.
We'll be back next week with a little Miami Grand Prix breakdown. Thank you guys.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Paddock Talk. Don't forget to like and share the episode and check out Paddock Talk on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Discord.